So picture this. You're deep in the Gobi Desert. It's arid, it's remote, it's about the last place on Earth you'd expect to find a cutting-edge nuclear reactor. But something out there is humming to life.
And that's because this isn't your typical nuclear reactor. No, this is a thorium-fueled molten salt reactor. It's this revolutionary idea that the US actually pioneered way back in the day, but then just abandoned in 1969.
So you gotta ask, right? Why? Why on earth is China pouring billions into reviving this ghost of nuclear's past? What do they see in this forgotten tech that everyone else missed?
Well, to really get the why, you first have to understand China's #1 strategic problem. It has a massive, and I mean massive, appetite for energy, and right now, that makes it incredibly vulnerable.
Just look at the numbers. They tell the whole story. China is still running on coal for about 60% of its energy, and it has to import over 70% of its oil. Relying that much on foreign fossil fuels, well, that's a huge economic and geopolitical risk. The mission is simple. Find a way to achieve total energy independence.
And this is where the plan is just brilliant. See, China completely dominates the world's rare earth mining industry, and a major waste product from that mining is thorium, a radioactive element. For decades, getting rid of it was just this huge, expensive headache. But now, they're turning that trash into a national treasure, a fuel source that could power the entire country for centuries.
This quote from a geologist in Beijing really just hits the nail on the head. For China, thorium isn't just about clean energy. It's about escaping the chaos and the conflict of the global fossil fuel market. It's about security, knowing your power source is right there, literally, under your own soil.
So what makes this old idea so darn compelling now? Well, the promises of these Thorium Molten Salt Reactors, or MSRs, they are genuinely game-changing.
I mean, you put them side by side, and on paper, it's not even a contest. Thorium MSRs are advertised as being basically meltdown-proof. They produce way, way less long-lived radioactive waste, and the fuel itself, thorium, is about 4 times more common in the Earth's crust than uranium.
Okay, now this is the really cool part. It's a concept called walk-away safety. Conventional reactors, they need power and complex systems to shut down safely. An MSR, it fails safe. If all the power gets cut, a fan stops, a plug of frozen salt just melts, and boom, gravity pulls all the liquid fuel down into a drain tank where the reaction just stops. No pumps, no computers, no human intervention, just physics. It's basically foolproof. And then there's the waste problem. This right here shows the advantage perfectly. The really nasty waste from a thorium reactor, it's dangerous for about 300 years. Now that's still a huge challenge, don't get me wrong, but it's a timescale we can actually manage. The waste from today's reactors stays hazardous for over 10,000 years. That's a completely different kind of problem. So, at this point, you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. If these things are so perfect, why isn't everybody building them? And that is the right question, because the answer lies in some truly, truly massive scientific and engineering hurdles. Yeah, there's a reason the US walked away from this whole idea back in '69. The promises are amazing, for sure, but the reality of making it work, on an industrial scale, it's just brutally difficult. Let me break down the single biggest roadblock. The whole problem basically boils down to this stuff, protactinium-233. See, when thorium gets hit with a neutron, it doesn't just turn into fuel. First, it becomes this other, super radioactive isotope. And the real problem? This stuff loves to soak up neutrons, poisoning the very chain reaction you need to keep the reactor running. So what that means is, you can't just leave it in there. You have to be constantly pumping the molten, screaming hot radioactive fuel salt out of the reactor core, filtering out that protoactinium, letting it decay into fuel somewhere else, and then feeding it back in. This online reprocessing is an unproven, incredibly dangerous engineering nightmare. And look, that protactinium problem, it's just one of several massive hurdles. These hot, corrosive salts literally eat away at metals, so you need to invent brand new materials. The upfront costs are staggering. We're talking over $500 million for just a tiny experimental reactor. The whole technology is it's not ready for prime time.
But despite all those challenges, China is not backing down, not at all. They are playing the long game here. They have a clear, step-by-step plan to tackle these problems and make thorium a real cornerstone of their future. I mean, just look at their roadmap. That 2-megawatt experimental reactor in the Gobi Desert, it's already up and running. The plan is to get a 10-megawatt demonstration reactor online by 2030, and from there scale up to a full commercial-sized reactor by 2035. This is a serious, state-funded, long-term commitment.
And get this, their ambitions go way beyond just power plants. They've already shown off designs for a giant cargo ship powered by one of these thorium reactors. Can you imagine that? A ship that can haul 14,000 containers around the entire planet without ever needing to refuel? This could totally revolutionize global trade.
So it all leaves us with this one massive question. China is basically in a race against physics, chemistry, and economics all at once. If they succeed, it's not just about energy independence for them. It could make them the world's #1 exporter of next-gen nuclear tech, completely redrawing the global energy map. It's a huge gamble, and believe me, the whole world is watching to see if it pays off.